She remembered the night she ran away long before she understood what she was running from. The human who raised her stood under the broken street lamp, calling her name through the rain, while she hid behind the rusted cargo crates, trembling with anger she didn't know how to hold and fear she didn't know how to name. The words she screamed at him still echoed inside her chest like a wound that refused to heal. "You're not my father," she had shouted with all the force of a heart that felt abandoned, long before it ever felt loved. And the moment those words left her mouth, she saw something change in him, a quiet collapse behind the strength. He always carried a stillness, like something inside him had been cut loose. But she was too furious to turn back, too young to understand that grief and love can look the same on a tired face. He didn't chase her that night, not because he didn't care, but because he knew if he stepped forward even one more time, she would only run farther and hate harder. So he stayed in the rain, whispering her name with a voice that shook under the weight of everything he had done to protect her, breaking laws to hide her from the alien hunters, fighting soldiers to keep her existence secret, risking his life again and again, while she grew up believing he was merely strict, not realizing he carried battles inside him she would never see. The cargo yard smelled of rust and diesel, and the distant hum of off-world engines. Ships lifting toward the sky like silver ghosts disappearing into the clouds she used to stare at as a child, wondering where she truly belonged, wondering if somewhere out there people who shared her alien blood were searching for her. Every child wants a place where they fit, a shape that matches their soul, and she had begun to think the human who raised her was a barrier between her and that truth instead of the shield he had always been. Her fists shook as she pressed them against her knees, hiding from him, listening to his voice grow smaller with each passing minute. Part of her longed to run back into his arms, to bury her face in his jacket, and let him promise once more that she was safe, but another part of her, a sharper, colder part, whispered that she would never know who she truly was if she stayed with him. She felt torn between the life he gave her and the unanswered questions burning inside her chest. When the last lights shut down and darkness swallowed the yard, she slipped out into the night, letting the cold air sting her cheeks. She walked for hours, following the glow of distant districts, dreaming of answers she believed were waiting for her somewhere beyond the city, in places she had never seen. She imagined alien worlds with violet skies and towering spires, imagined people with faces like hers, imagined a destiny bigger than a broken home and a human man who tried too hard to hold on to something drifting away. She didn't know he followed her from a distance that entire night, moving through shadows like a soldier trained for rescue missions, not interference, keeping threats away without letting her see him, watching over her with the same silent devotion he had carried since the day he found her inside the ruins of a crashed alien escape pod, a tiny child with markings glowing faintly across her skin, markings that would have condemned her if anyone else had found her first. He knew she needed to run, and he let her, believing the world might answer questions he could not, even if it meant watching her disappear from the life he had built around her heartbeat. But something wrong moved through the night currents, something he felt before he saw. The low vibration of an unauthorized warship skimmer passing over the rooftops, its energy signature unmistakably alien, not the peaceful kind, but the hunting kind, the kind that searched for outlawed bloodlines, the kind that had pursued her species across systems. He felt the cold grip of fear close around him as he realized she was walking toward danger she couldn't possibly recognize. She sensed it too, though in a different way, a faint tug in the air, like an instinct awakening, a pressure behind her temples, as though something distant yet familiar was reaching for her. It frightened her, but also pulled her forward, giving her the strange feeling that she was not alone, even though she had never felt more lost. The shadows around her stretched unnaturally, and a soft hum vibrated through the alley walls, like something enormous had entered the city without permission, without mercy. The human soldier who raised her moved faster, keeping low, scanning every rooftop, every reflective surface, every echo of sound across the alleyways, his training coming alive with brutal precision. His breath steadied, his muscles tightened, and the old instinct to protect at any cost surged through him. Not because he believed she still wanted him in her life, but because love does not end when a child walks away. It simply transforms into something quieter, something fiercer, something that will stand between her and destruction, even if she never knows. She stopped when the air shifted around her, glowing faintly with particles she didn't recognize, and yet they felt like home, like pieces of a forgotten memory, touching her skin, reminding her she was not entirely human. The lights flickered above her, and for the first time since yelling those painful words, she felt regret curling inside her, realizing she might have walked into something far bigger than truth or anger. She whispered his name without meaning to, as if her heart remembered something her mind tried to forget, and at that exact moment the soldier stepped out of the shadows behind her, breath trembling as he said her name one more time. Not in anger, not in accusation, but in a plea wrapped in fear and love. Before she could turn toward him, the sky cracked open with the sound of an alien warship descending into the city, and her markings flared like living fire across her skin, revealing a truth she was never ready to face and a danger he always knew would come for her no matter how far she ran. The night held its breath as destiny finally found them both. The sky trembled as the alien warship broke through the clouds, its metallic hull glowing with runic patterns she had only seen in dreams and nightmares. The air rippled with energy waves that pushed dust and debris across the street, while she stood frozen, caught between awe and terror, unable to look away from the vessel that felt both familiar and threatening all at once. Her markings pulsed brighter with every second, echoing the rhythm of the engines above, as though the ship recognized her in a way she had never recognized herself. The human soldier stepped in front of her, instinctively forming a shield with his body, the same way he had done since the day he found her, even though she no longer saw him as family. His breath was steady, but his eyes betrayed fear, the kind he had kept buried for years, the fear of this exact moment when the past he fought so hard to bury would rise from the darkness and demand the child he tried to protect from it. He whispered, "Stay behind me," even though he knew she wouldn't listen, not out of defiance, but because something ancient was waking inside her, something that didn't understand fear the same way humans did. The warship descended lower, slicing through the clouds with an unnatural silence until only the heavy thrum of its engines filled the night. Windows shattered and alarms wailed in distant districts, but she heard none of it, her world narrowing into a tunnel of light and vibration where her heartbeat matched the warship's pulse. She reached up, unconsciously touching her glowing markings, and felt a sensation like someone calling her name without sound, a whisper echoing through blood and bone, a whisper she had never known how to answer until now. The soldier watched her with a breaking heart, seeing the alien glow on her skin grow stronger, as though she was slipping into a world he could not follow. He wanted to grab her hand, to pull her away, to make her run the same way he had made her run years ago, when enemy soldiers hunted her species across star systems, but he feared that touching her now would amplify whatever connection the warship had awakened. She looked at him with eyes wide and trembling, and for the first time she didn't look angry. She looked frightened, like a child realizing her nightmares might have been memories all along. He tried to speak, but the warship sent a beam of pale blue light spiraling downward, illuminating the street in a cold circular glow, and she stepped back as her body responded to it strangely, her skin tingling, her pulse racing, her instincts screaming at her to move toward the light, even as fear rooted her in place. The beam felt like recognition, like a link clicking into place, something binding and ancient, as if destiny itself had chosen this moment to pull her toward the truth she had spent her life unknowingly chasing. The soldier swore under his breath and pulled her back, his grip firm but shaking as he said, "Don't look at it, don't answer it, don't let them see you like this." But it was too late. The beam widened and a low melodic hum filled the air, a sound that felt like a memory. She could almost touch, a lullaby she didn't remember hearing but somehow knew belonged to her people. Her knees weakened and she leaned against the soldier, her voice barely a whisper, as she said, "I know that sound, I've heard it before. Not in dreams, in something deeper, something older, like a story in my bones." The soldier felt helpless, watching her slip into something he couldn't fight, something no amount of training or battle experience could stop. He wanted to shout at the sky, to threaten the warship, to declare he would die before letting them take her, but he knew the truth. He was one human soldier against a vessel built by a species feared across multiple systems, a ship that could level cities without ever landing. He had no weapons, no armor, no backup, only love and desperation, but he still positioned himself between her and the beam, knowing he would fight until his body gave out if he had to. The beam shifted, focusing on him for a moment, scanning him with an eerie ripple of light that passed through his chest and spine. He felt exposed, as though the warship was reading every memory he ever held of her, every moment of raising her, of teaching her to walk, of wiping tears from her face, of cooking for her, of laughing with her, of hearing her call him father long before she learned she wasn't like the other children. The ship saw all of it, and the glow of its runes flickered as though recalibrating its judgment. She watched with fear blooming inside her as the warship recognized the soldier, the man she had run from, the man she had shouted at, the man she blamed for answers he had never been allowed to give. She felt her chest tighten, realizing too late that he hadn't been holding her back, he had been holding the universe away from her, trying to delay this exact moment when the truth would demand something from her he could never protect her from. The warship let out a resonant tone and three figures materialized within the beam, tall, elegant alien beings with the same luminous markings she carried, their eyes glowing with a mixture of authority and sorrow, as though they had been searching for her for years and mourning her absence even longer. She stared at them in stunned silence, recognizing herself in their faces, in the shape of their features, in the way their markings pulsed with emotion rather than aggression. One of the aliens stepped forward and extended a hand toward her, speaking her true name, the one she had never heard before, the one that vibrated through her blood like a forgotten heartbeat awakening. She gasped, feeling the world spin, everything inside her unraveling, as though she had been living with half a soul, and suddenly found the missing half waiting for her in the beam of an enemy ship. The soldier tightened his grip on her hand, refusing to let go even as the alien's eyes shifted toward him with a complex mixture of disdain and respect. He felt their judgment, but he didn't move, not when weapons hummed, not when runes glowed, not when the alien leader said, "She belongs to us." She stepped closer to him, her voice cracking as she whispered, "Do I go with them or stay with you?" And the warship above rumbled like the universe itself was listening for her answer, as destiny pulled her in two directions at once. The light from the warship deepened in color, shifting from pale blue to a haunting mix of violet and silver, as though the ship itself was reacting to her hesitation, the air vibrating gently with every beat of her conflicted heart. She stood between two worlds, both calling her, one with the quiet ache of familiarity, and one with the raw weight of memory she never knew she carried. Her markings glowed brighter colors, swirling beneath her skin like living fire, confused and afraid and awakening all. At the same time, the alien leader extended his hand again, his expression impossibly calm, yet layered with something ancient, a sadness so deep it felt carved into the lines of his face. His voice carried a strange resonance when he spoke, as though every word was wrapped in echoes of distant galaxies, reminding her she was not human, no matter how desperately she had once wanted to be. He whispered her true name again, and the syllables wrapped around her like a warm fog, pulling at a part of her soul she didn't know existed. She felt a tremor run through her legs as the sound of her alien name stirred something buried, a flicker of memory flashing behind her eyes, a room filled with crystalline light, a lullaby humming from a voice she couldn't see, a soft hand touching her forehead moments before everything exploded in fire and alarms. She gasped as the vision faded, leaving behind a hollow ache, a desperate wanting for a home she wasn't sure she had ever truly known. The soldier watched her, trembling with fear and longing and something he couldn't name. His grip tightened because he felt her slipping, not physically but emotionally, drifting toward a universe. He could not follow a universe that might take her away forever. He had always known this day could come, but knowing did not soften the pain of watching her eyes shift from him to the aliens with a kind of dawning recognition he had never seen before. He kept his voice steady even though it felt like his chest was cracking open when he whispered, "You don't owe them anything, not after what they did." His words carried the sharp edge of years spent hiding from those who destroyed her people, those who hunted the survivors, those who drove her species into extinction. He remembered the blood, the smoke, the ruins where he found her tiny and glowing and crying, though she should not have survived the wreckage of her escape pod. But the aliens standing before her were not soldiers, they were something else, robed in metallic fabrics that flowed like liquid starlight, their eyes reflecting the glow of their ancient runes. They looked at her with reverence, not hunger, and when they gazed at the soldier, it was not hatred but a quiet, calculating sorrow, like they recognized the scars he carried as the price of protecting someone who belonged to another world. One of the aliens stepped closer, her features softer, her markings shimmering with emotion. As she spoke, "The soldier cannot guide you any further. This is your return. This is the destiny your birthright demanded." But the girl felt heat rise in her chest, frustration and fear twisting together, because she didn't understand any of it. Destiny felt like a cage, fate felt like a story she never chose, and birthright felt like a lie that stole her childhood. The rain began to fall again, soft at first, then heavier each drop, scattering the light of the warship into shimmering sparkles, the storm building just as tension inside her threatened to fracture something deep within. She looked at the soldier, her voice shaking as she whispered, "Did you know my name all along?" And he felt a blade twist inside him because he had once found inscriptions in her pod, symbols he couldn't decipher, but he had kept them hidden, thinking they were better forgotten. He shook his head slowly. "No, I never knew the name, but I knew they would come for you someday, and I knew they would claim you were theirs even though you were mine." The moment the last word left him, his voice cracked, and for the first time she saw the truth in his eyes, the unbearable fear of losing her, not to danger but to belonging to a world he had never been able to give her. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the alien faces, the warship's hull, and the soaked ground between them. She felt lightheaded, overwhelmed by everything, the visions, the memories, the pull of the alien song still echoing in her bones. She felt her chest tighten, as if the universe had wrapped a hand around her heart, squeezing until she couldn't breathe. The alien leader finally lowered his hand and spoke with a tone that carried the weight of centuries. "We did not come to steal you, we came because you are the last of our royal bloodline, the last princess of the House of Vale, and without you our world cannot survive its final war." His words hit her like a shockwave, a truth so enormous she staggered backward, feeling the soldier's hands steady her even as her mind spun with disbelief. Princess, the word felt foreign, an impossible crown placed on her trembling shoulders, and yet something inside her responded to it, her markings shimmering like they recognized the title, even if she didn't. She looked at the aliens, her voice breaking as she said, "If I'm a princess, why did you abandon me? Why was I alone in a ship that crashed? Why did no one come for me all these years?" The aliens faltered for a moment, pain flickering across their glowing eyes, and the leader bowed his head. "The explosion that destroyed your vessel was no accident. Our enemies targeted you to end the bloodline and preserve their claim to the throne. We searched for you for years, but your signal vanished. We believed you had died with the others." The truth rocked her harder than any lie she had built her anger upon. She wasn't discarded. She wasn't unwanted. She was hunted, a threat so powerful that entire factions had tried to erase her existence. She felt her body tremble as tears fused with rain sliding down her cheeks, while the soldier stood behind her, torn between rage at what she had endured and fear of what her rediscovered destiny might demand. The warship above hummed with renewed urgency, light spreading across its hull like a pulse warning them that something darker was approaching, something the aliens seemed to sense long before she did. The leader whispered, "We must go now before they arrive," and his voice carried real fear, the kind that made her markings flicker with alarm. She looked at the soldier, her breath hitching, caught between the only family she knew and the world calling her home, and the storm around them seemed to still waiting for the choice that could change everything. The storm thickened around them as if the sky itself sensed the fracture forming between destinies, the thunder rolling with a force that made the ground tremble beneath their feet. She stood between the soldier who raised her and the aliens who claimed her, their lights reflecting off the rain-soaked street, turning every drop into a shard of silver and violet. Her lungs tightened as she felt the warship's growing urgency, a low hum spreading like a heartbeat across the air, warning them that something terrible was drawing closer. The alien leader stepped forward, his markings flickering faster as he said, "We must leave now, princess, before the hunters lock onto your presence." His voice carried desperation wrapped in sorrow, but before she could answer, she felt the soldier's hand on her shoulder, steady, strong, trembling with a fear he couldn't hide anymore. He said, "No one is taking her without telling her what waits for her up there. No more secrets. She deserves the truth." She felt the words strike her deeper than she expected, because truth had always been the shadow she chased, the thing she screamed for, the night she ran from him, the thing she believed he kept from her. Now destiny demanded answers, and yet the alien leader hesitated, his face tightening with conflict, a strange shame flickering through his glowing eyes. The warship's light pulsed faster, turning the rain into glittering mist as he finally said, "The enemy who destroyed our royal line is returning for you, but not for the reason you think." Something changed in her gut, a twisting pressure, as if an invisible hand reached inside her and clenched tightly. She whispered, "What reason then?" and the air grew colder, as though the universe held its breath, waiting for a truth too heavy to be spoken gently. The alien leader exhaled a trembling breath. "The last princess of Vale is not only heir to our throne, she carries a weapon encoded in her blood, one strong enough to turn the fate of the galaxy." The soldier's eyes widened, his hand tightening around her arm, while she staggered, struggling to understand how she, a girl who once believed she was unwanted, carried something so catastrophic inside her. But the leader wasn't finished. His next words broke through the rain with the force of a blade. "The weapon is not passive, princess, it is awakening. And if the hunters don't capture you alive, they will destroy everything around you to force the activation." Her knees nearly buckled, the street blurring as dizziness swept through her memories, slamming into her visions, the lullaby, the explosion, the fire, the glow inside her chest she had never understood. She felt her pulse race uncontrollably, a strange heat blooming beneath her markings, and she gasped, realizing they were not merely decorative but conduits, channels for something she didn't know she carried. The soldier moved in front of her again, instinctively shielding her as if he could stand guard against a destiny coded in her DNA. But the alien leader lifted a hand slowly, not in threat, but in fear, and said, "If she stays here, this city will be ash within the hour." The soldier bristled with anger, helplessness flickering across his face. "You had years to find her, and now you say she's a threat to everything around her." The leader bowed his head. "We did not know she lived, and we did not know the weapon survived the crash until her markings awakened tonight." But before she could absorb any of it, a violent tremor shook the air, a new sound tearing through the storm, not the hum of the Vale warship, but a deeper predatory vibration, like something ancient and monstrous shifting between dimensions. The aliens snapped into defensive stances, their eyes wide with a fear she had never seen them show before, and the leader whispered, "Too late, they found us." The sky ripped open behind the warship, revealing a second vessel, massive and jagged, its hull black like obsidian, its engines roaring with a ferocity that made her bones vibrate. This ship bore no runes, no grace, only the brutal architecture of a species born for destruction. The hunters, the ones who had exterminated her family, the ones who believed the weapon in her bloodline should never be allowed to exist. The Vale warship shifted its position, placing itself between her and the monstrous vessel, but the hunters fired immediately beams of crimson energy, slicing through clouds and rooftops, sending shockwaves that shattered windows for blocks. She gasped as the alien princess within her instincts awakened fully, her heart pounding in a strange rhythm that matched the pulsing glow of her markings, the heat inside her spreading like wildfire. The soldier grabbed her hand, pulling her close, but when their skin touched, something unexpected happened. A surge of white gold light burst from her chest, swirling around them in a blinding wave, the rain evaporating in a circular radius, as if the air itself bowed to the power awakening inside her. The aliens stared in shock, the leader whispering, "It's happening, she's triggering early, this shouldn't be possible, not without." Not without what he didn't finish, but his eyes widened as he looked at the soldier. She felt the heat rising through her veins, and suddenly her vision split, one half seeing the street, the ships, the destruction, and the other half seeing memories that did not belong to her, flashes of her mother, holding her, a glowing cradle, a symbol etched into her forehead, a voice saying she must never activate without her chosen guardian. She stumbled, gasping, as the memory sharpened, the face of her mother clear. In the moment, she whispered the shocking truth: the weapon will consume her unless the guardian survives the bond. She turned to the soldier, her voice trembling with realization as the air toward a purpose rather than destruction. The hunter cannon fired, the sound indescribable, a tearing, ripping scream of cosmic energy, hurtling toward them, glowing with crimson death. The Veil leader shouted for shields to full, but he knew it was meaningless. He braced for impact, expecting annihilation. But she stepped forward before the beam struck her body, guided by instinct and fate, and the soldier stayed beside her, never releasing her hand, the guardian bond locking into place with a force that cracked the pavement beneath them, and the weapon inside her ignited fully, releasing a column of radiant energy that blasted upward into the sky, meeting the hunter beam head-on. The collision lit the heavens with a brilliance so vast entire regions saw the flash, even those far outside the city witnessing a sky split between crimson and white gold like dawn battling apocalypse. Shockwaves rippled across the atmosphere, clouds evaporating in rings, lightning spiraling outward in luminous veins, the hunter vessel shuddering violently, its hull screaming under the pressure as the girl and her guardian poured everything into resisting the blast. Her voice broke with pain, tears streaming down her cheeks mixing with sweat and rain, her legs shaking violently as she forced the starseed weapon to respond to her, will not to fear, not to rage, but to protection, a force taught to her not by a queen, not by destiny, but by the human who raised her, by love that transcended species and war. The beam intensified, crimson surging, the hunter vessel pushing more power than ever before, the ground fracturing around her, the air screaming with pressure, and for a moment she felt herself slipping, the light inside her flickering, threatening to collapse, but the soldier growled through clenched teeth, pulling her into his embrace, holding her tightly. "I've got you, keep going, I believe in you," and something inside her roared alive. Her markings ignited like a supernova, the bond flaring so brightly every alien present dropped to their knees, shielding their eyes as she unleashed the full potential of her bloodline, a radiance that tore through the hunter beam, unraveling it atom by atom, until the crimson shattered into sparks, the backlash hitting the hunter vessel like a tidal wave, cracking its hull, imploding its engines, sending the monstrous ship spiraling out of control before erupting into a colossal explosion that turned night into daylight. Silence followed, heavy, trembling, alive with raw aftermath, the rain resuming in soft, gentle drops, as if the storm itself exhaled in relief. She collapsed into the soldier's arms, exhausted, trembling, but alive, her markings dimming slowly, while the alien leader approached with reverence, awe, and something close to fear. "The galaxy will feel this night, princess. The hunters will regroup, kingdoms will rise or fall by your choice. You have changed everything." She looked up at the soldier, her voice fragile but steady. "Will you come with me wherever this destiny goes? Because without you, I can't control this." And he brushed wet hair from her face, whispering, "You don't face any of this alone, not anymore, not ever." Above them, the Veil warship lowered its boarding ramp, the universe waiting for its lost princess and her unexpected human guardian, as the first thread of a war that would reshape galaxies began with a girl who once ran away whispering, "You're not my father," and returned holding the power to rewrite fate. The ramp of the Veil warship lowered with a slow, resonant hum, the metallic platform glowing with soft lines of alien script that shifted like living threads. She stood at the edge of the street, trembling in the aftermath of the power that had erupted through her body, her legs weak, her breath shallow, yet something deeper awakening inside her, something resolute and terrifying and impossibly beautiful. The stormlight reflected off her damp hair, off the fading glow of her markings, off the soldier's steady hands still holding her arms, as if afraid she might collapse or disappear into the void between worlds. The aliens watched with a reverence she did not know how to accept, their eyes wide with awe and a hint of fear. She felt like a paradox, a child raised in the ruins of a human city, yet bearing the force of a dying royal bloodline, a girl who once believed she was unwanted, now carrying a destiny the galaxy would bleed for. She swallowed hard, unsure how to step forward, unsure how to let go of the only world she had ever known, the broken alleys, the quiet nights, the soldier's warm voice guiding her through childhood storms. But the warship pulsed again, as if urging her forward, calling to the part of her made of starlight and memory, the part that remembered lullabies sung by a mother she never met, the part that felt the echo of an entire civilization clinging to her existence. She turned to the soldier, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to leave this place. I don't know how to be what they think I am." And he stepped closer, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face, his voice steady, even as emotion tightened his throat. "You don't have to know right now. You just have to breathe and walk forward, and I will be right behind you." The warmth in his words cracked something inside her, a dam she had built from anger and misunderstanding. The night she ran away, whispering, "You're not my father," as if the pain in her heart was his fault rather than the world's. She felt her chest tighten as guilt rose sharp and piercing, and she whispered, "I hurt you so much, and I didn't even understand what you were carrying for me." He shook his head gently. "You were a child carrying questions no one answered. That wasn't your fault, it was mine, and it was theirs, and it was the universe's, but never yours." A tremor passed through her markings, faint but noticeable like a warning pulse, and the alien leader stepped forward, his expression grave. "The activation you used tonight has consequences, Princess. Your power did not simply repel the hunters, it awakened sensors across the galaxy, ancient systems forgotten even by us. Kingdoms and empires will feel your resurgence, and they will come, some to pledge allegiance, others to destroy you." His voice lowered. "There will be no hiding again, not for you, not for your guardian." The soldier straightened at that word, guardian, as if the title finally settled into his bones, a mantle he never asked for, yet one he would die protecting. She looked at him and felt the bond between them hum gently, threads of light still coiled around their souls, though dimmer now, its presence warm instead of burning. The weapon inside her quiet for the moment, yet alert like a beast, curled in the corner of her heart, watching, listening, breathing. They stepped onto the ramp together, the glow beneath their feet responding to her presence, shifting to her pulse, forming patterns that seemed to welcome her home. The Veil ship felt alive, a vessel of memory, metal and light, designed to carry royalty across galaxies. And now it carried her, a girl who once slept in abandoned cargo yards, believing she had no place in the world. When the ramp sealed, the interior lit up with soft, cascading lights, illuminating corridors of crystalline panels that reflected their faces back at them, distorted by angles and colors. She felt a jolt in her chest, a strange recognition, as if she had walked these halls as a toddler, before the fire, before the hunters, before her life became something hidden and fragile. The leader guided them into the central chamber, shaped like a star, spiraling downward with steps of transparent alloy beneath which flowed swirling streams of golden energy. He turned to her with a solemn expression, "Princess, we must stabilize your core before the next surge, or it may ignite without control, and the city you just saved could become ashes in your memory." The soldier immediately stepped closer, protective instinct tightening every muscle. "What does stabilizing mean? What happens to her?" he demanded. The aliens exchanged looks, ancient fear flickering through their eyes, as the leader said, "She must merge with the royal conduit. It will amplify her connection to the starseed weapon, and it may unlock memories buried since infancy, but it will also test the guardian bond. If the bond is weak, she will fracture. If the bond breaks, she will die." Her breath hitched, her heart pounding so hard she felt each pulse vibrate through her fingers. She turned to the soldier, fear trembling in her voice. "What if I hurt you? What if this destroys you?" And he cupped her face gently, rainwater still clinging to her skin from the storm outside, his voice soft, fierce, filled with conviction. "Then we face it together. If my life ends protecting you, then it was worth living." Her eyes burned with tears, glowing in the reflection of the ship's golden light, the guilt, the fear, the love, the conflict swirling inside her, until she didn't know which feeling belonged to her alien bloodline, and which belonged to the girl who had once whispered his name in nightmares because he was the only safe thing she knew. They descended into the chamber where the conduit rose from the floor, a crystalline structure shaped like a blooming star, its core pulsing with rhythms that matched her breathing. The moment she stepped near it, her markings flared, her knees nearly buckling as a wave of memories surged up, pressing against her mind, images of her mother, her father, her world erupting in flames, hunters tearing through the sky, the cradle shaking, her mother singing even as alarms screamed. She gasped, collapsing to her knees, the soldier catching her instantly, his arms wrapping around her, as if trying to hold her soul together. The conduit responded, brightening, as though it accepted not just her, but the guardian who held her. The alien leader whispered with awe, "The bond is stronger than legend, stronger than any pairing the Veil ever knew, and the consequences of such a bond will ripple through every empire in existence." She clung to the soldier, trembling as the conduit surrounded them in spirals of warm light, her voice breaking as she whispered, "If we keep going, nothing stays the same, nothing in the galaxy stays the same, and he held her tighter, whispering, "Then let it change, let everything change as long as you're alive to see it." The conduit sealed around them, locking their fates in a chamber of light, as the galaxy shifted far beyond the ship, sensing the return of its lost princess, and the birth of a weapon powerful enough to start or end a cosmic war. The conduit closed around them like the petals of a living star, sealing the soldier and the girl within a chamber of warm, swirling light, the floor dissolving into a luminous mist that rose around their legs like a soft tide, the walls beating with the slow pulse of an ancient heart. She felt the energy surge toward her like a million whispered memories calling her name, threads of golden current spiraling through her markings, tugging at the deepest parts of her soul. Her breath shook as visions ignited behind her eyes, clearer than any memory she had ever glimpsed, the towering spires of Vale reaching into violet skies, the laughter of children glowing with runic light, the scent of crystal forests humming with life, then the fire, the screams, the storm of hunter warships tearing through the royal chambers, the last moment of her mother's face illuminated by panic and firelight as she placed the infant princess into the escape cradle, whispering the old blessing. "Protect her destiny, protect her heart." The girl sobbed as the memory pressed into her chest like a blade. This was her origin, her lineage, her inheritance built upon sacrifice and love and devastation. She collapsed forward, trembling as the conduit responded to her awakening energy, swirling more fiercely around her, her markings blazing like molten constellations under her skin. The soldier held her too tightly to let her fall, his arms locking around her waist as the power rose like a tide that threatened to tear her apart. His presence grounded her, a steady warmth inside the storm of visions, and light, the guardian bond humming with a strength that surprised even him. The ancient Veil technology recognized the bond, accepted it, amplified it, weaving the soldier into her energy, as though stitching two souls into a single destiny thread. He whispered into her hair, "I'm here, stay with me," and she clung to him as if he were the last anchor in a sea of stars. The conduit brightened, expanding its light outward until it illuminated the entire warship, the aliens shielding their eyes, as the chamber pulsed with raw creation energy, cascading patterns of radiance script across the walls. The leader whispered in awe, "She is accessing the throne core. This hasn't been done in centuries. She is linking to the heart of our civilization." Inside the chamber, her visions shifted again, showing worlds not yet touched by war, empires preparing fleets, hunter colonies awakening from dormancy, alien governments receiving energy spikes across their sensors, shocked into alertness as the starseed weapon reactivated after decades of silence. She saw them all swirling through her vision systems, aligning their strategies, rewriting their predictions, because a lost princess had returned. And she was no longer a helpless child. The soldier felt the pull to the weight of entire civilizations adjusting around her, the scope of the galactic consequences pressing through the bond, the realization that from this moment forward nothing would be small, nothing simple, nothing ordinary. He could feel her fear rise again, the crushing anxiety of responsibility, the terror of losing herself in the power consuming her, and he pulled her closer until her forehead rested against his chest, whispering again and again, "Breathe with me, you're not alone, you never were." The conduit responded to their unity, stabilizing its pulse, the surging energy softening into something harmonious, threads of light wrapping around them both like a celestial cocoon, her markings glowing brighter, but no longer wild, controlled, shaped, guided by her will and their bond. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I don't want to become a weapon, I don't want to hurt people, I just want a life I can live." And the soldier cupped her face, gently lifting it, so their eyes met, his voice low, steady, fierce. "Then choose the life you want, choose the kind of ruler you'll be. You're not destined to destroy anything, you're destined to protect what others can't." His words cut through the noise, through the fear, through the endless visions. The conduit's light shifted, recognizing her decision not to surrender to power, but to guide it, her soul aligning with something greater, not forced but chosen by her, chosen for her. The chamber exploded with golden brilliance, a wave of light sweeping through the ship, broadcasting a message written not in sound but in energy, echoing across space, a signal that resonated through star systems carrying a single truth: the Princess of Vale lives, and she has awakened. Across distant galaxies, ancient satellites flickered alive, dormant thrones lit with forgotten fire, hunter fleets recalibrated their strategies, entire governments paused their transmissions, the universe shivering with the realization that a new power had risen, one carrying both human resilience and Veil majesty. Inside the chamber, the storm of energy finally settled, the conduit petals opening once more, revealing her kneeling in the soldier's arms. Her markings dimmed into a soft glow, her eyes reflecting galaxies, but steady, calm, alive with clarity, her breathing, even at last, the weapon inside her quiet, but no longer hungry. It had merged with her will rather than consuming it. She rose slowly, still leaning against the soldier, her knees shaking, but her expression resolute. The alien leader stepped forward, bowing deeply, his voice trembling with awe. Everything changes now. Princess, kingdoms will rise to support you and others to oppose you. The balance of the galaxy has shifted around your heartbeat. She looked at the soldier, feeling the reality of her new life settle upon her shoulders, heavy, but no longer suffocating, her voice soft yet unwavering. I don't know how to rule. I don't know how to face wars or empires or destinies. And he smiled gently, brushing a thumb beneath her eye. Then we'll learn together, you and me, guardian and princess. Whatever comes next, we face it side by side. Her chest loosened, warmth spreading through her entire being as she whispered, thank you for raising me, for saving me, for staying, even when I ran. And he shook his head, his voice soft with emotion. You were never running from me, you were running toward who you were meant to be, and now you're finally here. They stepped forward together, emerging from the conduit chamber into the heart of the Veil warship, surrounded by kneeling aliens and shimmering pillars of light. The ship adjusting its course toward the stars, toward the world that awaited its princess, the future vast and uncertain and terrifying and magnificent. She tightened her grip on the soldier's hand, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and courage. The girl who once shouted, "You're not my father," now accepting the truth carved into destiny. He was more than a guardian, more than a protector. He was the anchor to her power and the witness to her rise. As the stars stretched before them in endless arcs of silver, she whispered into the new dawn, "Let the galaxy come, I'm ready." And with the soldier beside her, she truly was